After Malamar VMAX, I got the hankering to try out a traditional Dark Box. Welcome back everyone to more from the Sableyes. My name is Mitch and we're back again for more Pokemon TCG content. This time we figured we'd take a look at an old fan favourite, and that is Dark Box. We've got our friend Weavile-GX over here and we're going to play him alongside some of the new cards from Rebel Clash, but with some old favourites as well. We'll see if we can't get this deck to work. It was that close when it first came out, but now it could potentially have some good things going for it. We'll take a look at the list. So obviously Dark Box has always been based around Weavile-GX. Weavile is one of my favourite Pokemon, and Shadow Connection is a really strong ability. As often as we like during our turn, we can move basic Dark Energy from one of our Pokemon to another. So we can just move them around. We've got lots of opportunity to get those energies moving. Claw Slash is an acceptable attack for 130 damage, and Nocturnal Maneuvers is a GX attack that is usable, but I don't think we're going to be using this card for anything other than moving energy around. We run a 2-2 line in this deck because we have some different attackers. If you're familiar with Dark Box, you'll remember Umbreon and Darkrai-GX, 270 HP Dark type with Black Lance for 150 damage, 2 Dark and a Colorless. We do 60 damage to one of the GX or EX Pokemon on our opponent's bench, which is a solid attack. 150 plus 60 is the same kind of damage output that Inteleon VMAX is doing, and we spoke about that being pretty good. And Dark Moon GX is a very, very strong GX attack that can potentially turn a game on its head. 1 colorless energy. Our opponent can't play trainer cards next turn. It's good for just stalling out, give yourself a bit of an extra turn to set yourself up. But if you have 5 extra Darks attached to this Umbreon and Darkrai, you can take a knockout on the active Pokemon as well. So not only do you stop your opponent from playing guards, but you can potentially take a couple of prizes as well. So we're going to try and get Dark Moon GX off if we can as early as possible, but obviously at any point during the game, if we can use it to take some prizes, that will be excellent. We also have one other attacker in the list. It is Sableye, Mega Sableye, and Tyranitar. 280 HP. This used to be one of the biggest Pokemon in the game. Such a huge number it was, and it's got a massive attack as well. Greedy Crush for 210. It does 210 damage for 4 Dark and a Colorless, which is a lot. But if we knock out a GX or an EX Pokemon, we are going to take an extra prize. So we take out a Dedenne, we take 3 prizes. 210 damage probably isn't going to get a knockout on something like a Pikarom, but if we can set up some damage with Umbreon Darkrai, then potentially Greedy Crush could take 4 prizes, which would be really, really good. But, you know, it's going to be fine. We'll take the 3 prizes when we can get them. And down the bottom there, we've got a GX attack. If we just need to do a ton of damage, 250 damage for Gigafall GX, the same attack cost, 4 Dark and a Colorless. But then if we have an extra 5 energy attached, we can discard the top 15 cards of our opponent's deck. Now, that is probably never going to happen because if you take a look at our list, we have exactly 10 energy, so we're unlikely to get them all in play, but we could potentially get there. Now, Mitch, you might be asking, how are we going to accelerate this energy? Well, we've got all these 3 energy attacks. We've got an attack that's worth 5 energy. Well, we're going to use Darkrai Prism. Now, this card is an incredibly good card for accelerating energy. We had a couple of suggestions to utilize it in some other decks, but I think this is the deck that we want to make use of it in because we can move those energies around. What we're going to do is we're going to Darkrai Prism, a Nightmare Star ability. We're going to play it down. We're going to attach 2 dark energies from our hand to that Pokemon when we play it. We're going to move them off with Weavile-GX onto another Pokemon. We're going to utilize one of 4 copies of Scoop Up Net or flip heads on 3 copies of Super Scoop Up to put Darkrai Prism back into our hand and do it all again. If we get really lucky, we could potentially attach 4 or more energy from our hand with this card in a turn. So we can really turbo this deck, get ourselves into Darkrai, get ourselves into energy, and start accelerating to make use of them. Now, this deck is super fragile in the early turns, but if you move past that first, second turn barrier, you get yourself set up, there is a lot that this can do. So we need to get ourselves a nice consistent start. That's why we have 4 copies of Jirachi. This card is required at a 4 count. We tested it with 3. It seems like you probably want to have 4 to guarantee that you'll start with it. And also 2 copies of the Dedenne-GX so that you can move through your deck without always having to use supporters. The Dedenne is obviously very strong. Good thing is, Super Scoop Up you can combine with the Dedenne, so even though you only have 2, you can potentially use it more times if you get a little bit lucky. Now, we mentioned we've got a little bit of a turbo deck, so we're going to run a little bit of a speedier engine. We've got less Pokemon search, only 4 Quick Ball in this deck. We're going to draw into them with things like Acrobike, which we have 3 copies of, and 2 copies of Cherish Ball to help us find our Dedenne-GXs, or some of those tag team Pokemon if we need them. They're still GX Pokemon, so we can find them like that. The best thing that Cherish Ball does for us, though, is it finds Weavile-GX, which is the most important card to be able to find early. If we can get a Sneasel into play turn 1 and a Weavile-GX into play turn 2, then we shouldn't have too many problems. So we need to make sure that we're getting into those Pokemon as quickly as we can. Now, once we've gotten into those Pokemon, we need to be able to accelerate energy with Darkrai. So we've got a couple of ways to get energy into the deck. We've got 2 copies of Energy Spinner, which if we go second, we can use to find 3 Dark Energy to set off an early Darkrai, or we can use it to find an energy in the mid-game just to help ourselves along the way, accelerating onto that Darkrai. And we also have 2 copies of the new Training Court to help us find energy from the discard pile. So that's 2 ways we can use a trainer to find an energy. Maybe we don't draw into one, but we've got a Jirachi in the active. We can use Energy Spinner or Training Court to try and get those energies into hand so that we can use Darkrai Prism to accelerate. If that doesn't work out and we can't get them out of the discard, then we can always put them back with Ordinary Rod, but this card is mostly here to make sure that Weavile-GX and Sneasel end up back in the deck. The only way that this deck can really fall apart, like completely disappear from the face of the earth, is if both Sneasels either are prized or one of them gets knocked out early, or God forbid they both get knocked out. Ordinary Rod is going to put them back in, so we're going to get another opportunity to get them out, but we do rely on this sneaky smash Sneasel getting it into play quickly. Also, as a side note, this Pokemon is a really good start if you go second, because you can just use Sneaky Smash to get rid of an energy, which for most decks is very crippling at the moment, so be aware of that option as well. Now, we also have 3 copies of Switch. It's not the full 4 count. We're going to try and give ourselves some space for these Scoop Ups, so 3 Switch is pretty much all that we need. And we also run 2 copies of Vitality Band. It's not the greatest tool card in the world, but it's definitely important. Here's why. This card here does 150 damage. That's 300 to a Dragapult. That's not good enough. We need to do 320. So Vitality Band will get us to 160, which is a knockout on Dragapult VMAX. Suddenly we're taking 3 prizes for 1 attack. That seems very strong. Also, there is a very popular card that runs that is run in most decks that has 160 HP. I bet you can't guess what it is. So if we can get ourselves an opportunity to attach Vitality Band, we hopefully can stick it on that Umbreon Darkrai. And also, I mean, Greedy Crush is 210 damage. We can attach that to a Vitality Band to this guy as well, to the Sableye, and we can knock out something like a Zacian, which would be pretty good. And we can even get up to 260 with Giga Fall to try and knock out some Raichus, Raichu, and Pikarom as well. So there are lots of uses for Vitality Band. It's not like broken as a card, but it is definitely good enough to fix some of the maths that we need to do with this list. Now, moving on to supporters, it's a very standard supporter line at the moment, I guess you could say. We've got 4 Professor's Research. It's the best draw supporter in the game, as I'm sure you know. Discard, draw 7. We've got 2 Marnie as a little bit of disruption as well, and we also have 1 Cynthia. Sometimes we don't want to put Pokemon like Weavile back on the bottom of the deck with Marnie, so a Cynthia can potentially save us, but you know, it's kind of awkward sometimes. So Cynthia is just a little bit of a safer option for us. And we also have 3 copies of Boss's Orders. It's a high number, but we're going to be Dedenne-ing. We want to make sure that we can utilize it to get those knockouts. Sableye we want to be able to use on a GX, so hopefully we can Boss's Orders one out. And we obviously want to make sure that we can target down things with Umbreon when we get the chance. So we need to be able to use Boss's Orders, so 3 means we can probably discard or prize 1, and it's not that big of a deal. Rounding out the list, we have 10 Dark Energy. I mentioned that that's just enough to potentially get the Sableye-GX attack off for the full effect, but ultimately 10 is the safest number that we can use to guarantee that we can attach some, discard some, and still get Darkrai Prism off. I think this deck has a lot of potential. Umbreon is a very good attacker, and Weavile-GX is a very good card that just hasn't had an opportunity to shine yet. What we'll do is we'll take this one out to the ladder. We'll see if we can hit Dragapult VMAX. That'd be great, but otherwise we'll see how it fares up against something else. Alright, here we go. Gameplay time. Our opponent is flipping the coin here, so we will see how things go. We won the coin flip. Hello JMill491. How are you doing? I'll give you the nice little hello back. We're going first, which is pretty good. It means that we've got ourselves an opportunity to start setting up a decent hand here. This is a pretty solid start. We've got Sableye, we've got Darkrai, we've got double energy, so we're just going to chuck the Darkrai down straight away, put both of those energy in play. Now, I think what we can do is we can Energy Spinner here, we'll get a Dark Energy, and we can Quick Ball that away to find the Dedenne to draw some cards. I want a Sneasel, I want to get that into play, but I also need supporters for next turn, and since we've got the Training Court, we can just afford to get rid of the Dark Energy. So we'll just play all those cards, get ourselves a Dedenne, and all we need is a Sneasel, which we get. Okay, we are in the clear here. Do we play down this Umbreon? I think we just Acro Bike first. Oh god, this is a bit of an awkward one. I think we're going to just grab the second Umbreon. Not ideal. We can just pick up the energy. Actually, what we can do with this hand, if we attach, we've got an extra Dark Energy in the discard. Ooh, this is a tough one. I think this Stellar Wish needs to be... Do we need to get research? I think we just have to get research. Anyway, I've been caught on a different train of thought. This Scoop Up in our hand could be super critical. We've got a Dark Energy in hand, we've got a Dark Energy in the discard. So we've got the Cherish Ball for Weavile. Next time we'll play that, we'll get the Weavile in play. We'll move the energy from Darkrai Prism. And then if we flip heads on Scoop Up, then we could potentially attach 2 more energy, which means we'd only be 1 attachment away from using Dark Moon GX for the full effect on whatever is left in the active for our opponent. Now, we've had a really strong start here. It'll be interesting to see what our opponent does. They've got a Quick Ball, they've got Latios GX and Dedenne, so are we looking at like Mewtwo maybe? Okay, so this is starting to look a little bit more like Mally tags. I've got a bit of a great catcher situation going on there. Almost definitely going to bring up that Sableye. So we might be locking ourselves into a greedy crunch here. But that's okay. It looks like we are playing against some Malamar variant. Whether it's Mewtwo Malamar or not is another question. But I think seeing the Mimikyu suggests Mally tags. And this deck's been seeing a lot of play on the ladder recently. So I wouldn't be surprised if that is... Yeah, I've got a spell tag there. That pretty much sums it up. And they've got into research as well. They retreat into Jirachi. Now, what we could potentially do is we could potentially set ourselves up here if that Scoop Up heads is... If that Scoop Up flip is a heads. So, we're just going to double check here. We've got a Quick Ball. I don't think there's anything that we realistically care about. We just need the Cherish Ball for this Weavile first. It's important to move the energy off before you try and scoop up the Darkrai, because that would be very awkward. We can just move these energies to the active here. There's no negative impact on doing that. So we can put those there, no problems. Then... It's weird, okay, there we go. I was just about to say my cards weren't activating. Scoop Up is a Tails. Okay, so we're not going to worry too much about that. We will attach. We'll just chuck it down here on the Umbreon. Again, it doesn't matter. We've got Weavile. We can do whatever we want. We'll Quick Ball. We'll just thin out probably a Jirachi here. We don't need that. And then we can Professor's Research. We've got our 2 attackers in play and our Weavile. So we should be fine. This is awkward to say the least, but we've got a Scoop Up Net, so potentially what we can do is we can Scoop Up Darkrai Prism here, use the Training Court to get the energy, and that'll at least get us 5 energy to attack with Sableye. I think that's pretty much the only thing that we've got going for us at the moment, so I think we'll do that. We'll accelerate that energy there, and then Shadow Connection. We've got 5 energy to attack with Sabletar on turn 2. There you go. Like, you can accelerate pretty quickly with this thing. So we're going to take a prize. We don't take the extra prize on a non-GX Pokemon, but that's going to be nice for our prize trade here, because we're not going to be able to be knocked out by anything. They're not going to be able to do anything to us. They can't knock us out. We've got Boss's Orders in hand, so we can gust out either the Latios or the Dedenne, which will be excellent, because we'll take 3 prizes on that, and then we are 1 attack away from taking the game on Latios, right? So my plan here is either knock out Latios with Tyranitar now, or if they tag Purge, which is likely, they'll do 120, minus 20 because of the resistance, so 100. We might have to be a bit risky. We might lose some of these energies if... Sorry, I'm thinking too far ahead. Let's just focus on the turn in front of us. We've been Marnie for 4. Okay, we've got Boss's Orders still, so the Greedy Crunch play is still on. And there's the Tag Purge. Okay, so we can't take a knockout on this Latios GX. We can either Cynthia and try and get into an energy and a switch, so that we can move the energy onto the Umbreon to try and GX, or we can just gust out the Dedenne. I think we just gust out the Dedenne because they don't have that many energy in the discard pile. All of them are committed to this Latios, and the GX attack from Umbreon goes through Latios as well, so they're not going to be able to take the full effect. This is a gamble, because Greedy Crush, even though it takes 3 prizes for us, if they get the attack off with their Mimikyu, then they'll be able to take 4 prizes on us and remove all of our energy. So it is risky, but I think it's worth going for, because I think the likelihood of them pulling off that as a move is going to be pretty small. They're likely to just go for the Tag Purge here. And we've got an energy in hand, so pretty much now all we need to do is just thin ourselves out and try and find a switch, of course, presuming that our opponent doesn't knock us out, but they very easily could. They've got a switch here from their Stellar Wish, so they'll probably switch into the Latios regardless, because it has free retreat. And then it's just a Tag Purge. Okay, so we could very easily just win this game here. They've set it up for us so that we can't lose as long as we find switch, because I'm just double checking there. Tag Purge is only damage, so we're going to thin some cards out. We'll get rid of a Jirachi. We will then get rid of that Jirachi and find another one. We need to Acro Bike here. We'll play down the Vitality Band, whatever. We've got the energy, so we'll attach that. Acro Bike. Find a switch, maybe. Oh, yes, we've got a switch. Okay, we don't even need to use a supporter. What we're going to be able to do is we're just going to switch into this Umbreon, and then we can just move all these energy with Shadow Connection, and then Dark Moon GX for game. And, oh, there's the concession. They've just let us have it. So could Dark Box be a solid option for the future? I mean, we just accelerated a ton of energy with Darkrai Prism, and we didn't even have an optimal acceleration with them. I mean, every now and then we only accelerated 1, so could it be good enough? Possibly. I mean, this is probably the best that Dark Box has ever been, and there's also the added benefit of something like Dragapult VMAX being one of the best cards in the game right now. So this could potentially be a really strong pick if you're going up on the ladder. It's definitely a lot of fun. It's nothing quite like accelerating multiple energy with Super Scoop Ups and Scoop Up Nets. So definitely worth a try if you don't have anything else on. These cards are great fun to play with. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming along. Hopefully you've enjoyed this one. I know I certainly have. It's been very entertaining, and I think that this is the type of deck that I can really get behind. If you've got any decks that you'd like us to play, then just let us know. We're taking suggestions for more lists. We've got quite a few lined up, but we're always interested to see what you guys are after. If you do like the content and you want to see similar stuff, then consider subscribing on the button just about here on this side of the screen. There are some videos that YouTube thinks you'll like, and down the bottom is a playlist for more of our Rebel Clash deck lists and gameplay. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter at the Sableye_YT, and without any other poor New Zealand accents, that's it. That's the end of the video. Bye.